I'm Mike Costello, and I'm here with Dr. Iris Freelander, and today we'd like to talk to you about finding strength when you're broken. And I think all of us at different points in time in our lives have a feeling of brokenness, don't we, Iris? That's kind of a part of the human and spiritual condition.
Well, we would have to be totally insensitive and comatose if we don't feel the exigencies of life, because why would we be here on Earth if we're not going to have problems to face and problems to work through? And depends on how well we work through those problems as to how comfortably we're able to face future problems. And sometimes we fail ourselves in losing control of our emotions, losing control of ourselves in any way, but in trying to gain control of other people as a rule. But when we face certain problems and get through them, then we're able to face the larger problems in life and get through those more fully, aren't we?
Absolutely. And what we're really talking about is a form of healing. And so often we think of healing the body, or we may think of, in psychological terms, healing the mind, but healing the spirit and healing the mind, body, and spirit altogether is a part of our brokenness, I think. And so often the circumstances and situations that we face, and as you just said, we all face all kinds of circumstances. And I think it's important at the beginning of the program to be real clear that as positive as you and I are, and New Thought and metaphysics and our teaching and our counseling is, we don't have any magic pill or magic solution that if you do these things, your life is going to be trouble-free. And I think so often people think that about us. People think that about a particular church. They think that about a particular medical technique or something, and we're so accustomed to going to somebody and being fixed. And certainly there are wonderful technologies that fix us, and there are wonderful theologies that fix us, and there are wonderful psychological techniques and psychiatric techniques that fix us. But really, we're going to constantly be going through these broken times of our lives, and as we go through them, we need a healing, and we need to be healed at all levels. And the least of our healing needs sometimes is the physical side. And we spend a lot of time on this program talking about the people that we've seen, you and I both, who've had horrible physical challenges, who may not be healed in body, but they're certainly healed in mind and spirit in a wonderful and magnificent way. But then relationships where people are so broken and so defeated, or economic reverses, and people that have gone through bankruptcies, and people that have ended long-term relationships. I mean, the list goes on. Jobs that people care so much about. Just last night I was interested to watch the news, and there was a discussion about widening one of the freeways here in the Los Angeles area, and I forget where it was, but they were interviewing a variety of people, and it was so clear that so many of these people were just broken by the idea that eminent domain was going to take away their homes. And so that need for healing at all levels just comes to us from all sides, and no matter how good we are, or who we are, how much money we have or don't have, we're going to find ourselves broken from time to time.
Yes, we are. And then we have to remember that every event is a process, and we can't just automatically get from one point to another without some pain, without some suffering. But that time makes all the difference in the world. And if we realize that, I think we can go through any crisis situation more comfortably and get through it more quickly, and also have learned a great deal. And because we plan before we're born we have an outline of our lives, and we have that outline showing certain things we're going to have accomplished in that lifetime. So we can't go through life, as you said earlier, without problems facing us. And so then if we realize that this is a process we have to go through, and know that time makes a difference, then we can live through them more easily. And when I think back on my own life, the crisis situations, I had to learn that very early in life, that nothing ever stays the same, and and everything is a process. You don't just step from having something really bad to something really good, or vice versa. It's a process, and it's up to us how we face it. And again, our intent is all the difference in the world. If our intent is to look to God in His goodness, to Creator God for guidance, and put our faith and trust that everything is happening as it is supposed to happen, not because God has willed it, because it's a process that we have planned to go through. And because God is good, God is love, and we can gain our sustenance there. But God doesn't send tragedy into people's lives. That's part of the process. And so if we can look at life in that way, I think that people who are serene and happy prove that, yes, this is the way they manage to remain that way, because they look at life in that fashion. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. And this need for planning and anticipating this reality is important, and then also having flexibility and in the plan. And one of the things that I've learned in my life is, and I keep getting better and better at it, hopefully, but is that so often, because I do a lot of work, as you know, in business and also in spiritual work as well, and other areas, but I come from the background so often where people believe that, and we're taught both academically and from a practical standpoint, that we create a plan and we go step through it, A, B, C, D. But sometimes we're going to go from A to F, and then back to C, and then to L, and then to C again, and then to D. And sometimes it's not A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z. And we become despondent when the plan doesn't work out in our own time and in the way that we think it should. And the key is that the timing isn't ours, but timing is so tremendously important, because there's a right time for everything. And then the route that takes us to where we need to go is going to take us on a pathway that is going to bring us immeasurable blessings and lessons and experiences that we need so desperately. And we may not see the need for it, and we may not even plan it, but it's going to bring us ultimately to our great good and to our great peace and to our great satisfaction and maturity of mind, body, and spirit. And that's the process that I think we work through as well.
Yes, and most people don't want to go through the painful process. And so it's only through living through that we have anything happen. And so if we never have to face a crisis, then we don't know. We can't understand other people when they are reacting the way they are. So I think that as we learn to just accept life and accept that change is an essential part of life and totally inevitable, and then we then are able to face a crisis situation more easily, knowing that 9 times out of 10, the outcome is better than what we started with. And that's what most people are afraid of change. So when we don't fear change, then we have the battle half won, don't we?
Absolutely. And when we're broken, sometimes where we heal is our strongest point. And so without that brokenness, we don't have that strong point that we need that's going to sustain us in the next experience. And it's so well put that it is a process through which we move. Life is a process, and life is seemingly imperfect in its perfection, and yet it is perfect. And divine order is something in metaphysics and New Thought that's so important to us. We talk a lot about divine order, and I think it's the wonderful thing too about our particular movement. And again, we don't talk about the principles that we share with people in order to convert them or to make them come to our way of thinking necessarily, although we'd like to change their way of thinking to a positive way. But it certainly is a process that that helps people to become stronger, more self-sufficient in themselves, and understand that that there is a strength, and that there is a vitality, and that there is a wonder and a great joy of life, and that divine order is always coming about despite appearances to the contrary. And I don't think it's any mistake that our followers, not yours and mine, but followers of New Thought and metaphysics, are often referred to as true students. And I don't think it is a mistake when we think about the fact that so often in our churches and our centers, we refer to each other as students and co-workers, because we are learning. We're learning to be better at the process of life. We're learning to be better at using these universal principles. We're learning, we're good pupils, we hope, and we're following the master teacher. And as we follow that master teacher, we will go through those exams, and we'll pass them, and we'll move on to the next grade and to the next level of understanding, and life becomes a fulfilling and uplifting and vibrant experience.
Yes, and we're also allowing other people the freedom to develop in their own way, each in their own way, because when we try to tell other people what to do, we get into big trouble, or our expectations are too high. But it's always good to applaud others as they go through their process, and let them know that we appreciate giving a hand out very often is so helpful for others, excuse me, when they're going through problems. But we don't really have to say very much. We can just say, I care. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all people need to hear, isn't it?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just being there.
Yes.
Just letting them know that we support them in the place where they are, even if it's in the midst of pain or brokenness or confusion or in the midst of not knowing, because there's not a problem with not knowing.
That's right. And one day recently I had a painful situation, and my little grandson said to me, put his arms around me, and he says, Grandma, I love you. I'm your friend. And that's all. And, I thought, what a good lesson that is. I must remember to do that and not tell people it's going to be better, and not tell people that God is on their side, not tell people anything, but just I care. Mm-hmm. I love you, and I'm your friend.
And we don't have to be so profound all the time. We'd like to pause at this point in the program and share with you some information.
We would like to offer you the opportunity to receive one of these free booklets to further your understanding of the New Thought message of confident living. Each month we will feature a different booklet, which will be mailed to you free and postage paid. Simply address your request to Confident Living at P.O. Box 7726, Long Beach, California, 90807.
We do find strength when we reach out, don't we? And, when I was just thinking about that during the break, that when we're broken or when we're hurting, by just reaching out to others, we mm-hmm. gain strength.
That's right. We gain strength ourselves. And then they gain strength, too, if we don't try to program them. And there's not my will, but thine be done, oh God, in me and through me, is a wonderful mantra. Because if we say that in our heart, then we really do release and allow our troubles to go past us and know that God is fulfilling that need. And that's a wonderful thing to know that we don't have to fight battles. They resolve themselves through the grace of God. And the spirit of grace and mercy is real. It's real in all our lives. We have but to claim it. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that when we're having a problem time.
We don't have to struggle so hard.
Yes.
But we think we have to struggle, and we think that we have to be so profound and we have to know so much. And the other thing I think is we think we have to learn all these things, and I think maybe we learn too much. Of course, as truth students, we know that we do very often learn too much. We learn and we study and we often meditate on the things that are of interest to us, and we get involved in all kinds, and that's fine. Just like it's fine if we're a college student or a high school student to study the things that we like and to read the things that we like that we're entertained by. But the fact is that we need to be well-rounded persons of broad experience in the experiences of life, and the brokenness sometimes brings us these wonderful and magnificent lessons that we need to have.
Yes, and it also brings friendships more out into the open. If we allow people to just reach out to us, those who just do that, just reach out to us, don't try and tell us what to do and what we must be about, then that is very strengthening, just knowing that. And it brings humanity together. Every time there's a terrible crisis in the world, it seems to the overall positive effect is that it brings people together more fully. Mm-hmm. And as we brought together more fully, then we're less judgmental, and we're less, we don't indict other people. We just accept and pray for the highest good.
Mm-hmm. And this idea of bringing people together is so important. And in today's society, we're so fragmented, I think, in our families and in our workplaces, in our communities. We don't know each other. We don't connect. We don't share necessarily in times of need. You came from a rural life in a way in your childhood. I didn't come from a rural life, but I came from a different era, so to speak, here in a metropolitan area. And people used to reach out in a much more profound way to make connections. Mm-hmm. And just such things as socializing. We don't, and that issue of socializing and supporting and being present with each other, and having a covered dish or a potluck, or having someone over for dinner, or going to the theater, or doing these things. Some of us do these things on a superficial or sporadic level, but I find that the people who interact on a regular, constant basis with others are able to sustain themselves in the grace and mercy of God more fully and completely in their times of need than those who are totally isolated. And don't you find that?
Yes, I do find that to be true. And however, we do need time alone, and this is not the same thing at all, but we need to honor that certain people need time alone. And sometimes we can get in trouble because not everybody has that same need, and not everybody understands it. And there are those people who just keep going. And I can remember times in my own life when I've needed time alone and time for introspection, and my friends wouldn't allow that. And I've had hard feelings among my friends, and they've rejected me, some have, because they don't understand. And as we said earlier, everything is a process. Well, the process of living through that sometimes is disastrous to a friendship because people simply don't understand and they don't want to understand. But we have to honor everyone's need, and some people are more loquacious, so we have to let them be. Some people have to have activity in their lives all the time, and we all have friends who match all of these things. We can each think of a friend in our life who that's the way they are, that they all have, each person has a certain specific need, and we have to let them be and let them do that. And those people who are busy, we don't have to join them every time they invite us. We can just say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But let them be and let them do what they need to do, because if that's what we need to do, then we have to allow it. But we have to honor the uniqueness of every human being. And if people don't honor our uniqueness, then we have to be strong enough in our own right to just do whatever it is we need to do.
Mm-hmm. And as you were speaking, I was just struck with the issue of how tired we become sometimes and how busy we do become. And sometimes we become busy with activities because of obligations or the feeling that we have to participate when it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And so the activities of life often ought to be fun and enjoyable, or if not fun,
That's
at least enjoyable. And if we are tired and hurried and burdened all of the time, we break much more easily, don't we?
Yes, that's true. And it means, and also we need to know ourselves. Some great, I think Socrates said, know thyself and thou knowest all. But we have to know ourselves and know what our limits are and what our capabilities are and know what we really need. And some people need more solitude than others, and conversely, more activity than others. And we all have different, various needs. We have to honor each person's need and let them do what they need to do, but we don't have to always join them in every endeavor and still have a rich relationship or friendship, as the case might be. And when we do that, then we're happier and the people around us are happier and we're accepting and they're accepting.
And that acceptance one of another is so important, and even accepting the frailties of others is important.
Yes. When we do, it means we're understanding and accepting, and we accept idiosyncrasies. And I think that it's interesting as we are around children or raising our own family or around other children, if we don't have growing children in our homes, then it's such a wonderful lesson just to watch children and visit with them from time to time. They are so refreshing because they haven't learned that you're supposed to do this, that, or the other thing as a rule. They're just naturally themselves, and it's so wonderful to see. And I'm thinking of my two little twin nieces who are so refreshing, and they say, and they go to a fundamentalist church. And so one of the two twins, when her grandmother or someone in the family says something to her that's going to happen that she likes, she'll say, "Hallelujah, glory be." And so that's an extreme example, but if we just, and the family never tells her, don't do that. Don't do it in public at least. But if we just let them be and let them be themselves, then it makes life so much more wonderful.
Yeah, maybe we ought to say hallelujah more often.
Glory be.
but it is an issue of expressing our feelings and allowing others to be expressive. And also, as we think about children, we think when they're broken and when they're hurt, how quickly and how resilient they are at coming back.
Yes.
It comes back, I think, to this issue of not judging the circumstance, not judging the situation. It just is what it is. And so often in life, that's what it is. It is what it is. And often it has little to do with the circumstance at hand. And of course, as counselors and therapists, we know that people are often projecting. And so it may not be what it appears on the surface. And the reaction that we're getting may not at all be on the surface. And sometimes, or quite often, there's a greater or more underlying need or issue. And sometimes we need to understand that and we need to delve into it, but most of the time we don't. We need to let it go and we need to move on, and we don't need to understand it, and we don't need to belabor it. But we can save ourselves and we can come out of our brokenness so often by that. And I'm just thinking about how often over the years in counseling and in the ministry and in work and in life, people have said to me, but he or she said that, and they hurt me so much, so badly, and I just can't get over it. And that last statement is just a statement of reality. I can't get over it. And that's an affirmation. I can't get over it. And not only as I can't get over it, I will not get over it because I hold it so tightly to me. And as we hold those negative experiences so tightly to us, it just creates a deeper and deeper wound, and the hurt becomes greater and greater, and the brokenness becomes more and more profound.
And the key there is just to not care, that just to say to ourselves, well, that's their opinion, and they have a right to their opinion, and they don't even know the circumstances and we can say honestly when we're going through a process, I don't even understand the circumstances. How could anyone else understand this if the very people involved don't? So we can just, and that's how we rationalize into not caring. It's not that we're down on life or we give up. It's that we realize we can never know all the ramifications, so we're not going to care how that person acts or reacts. That's their problem, and if they want to create problems and live with it, then that's their prerogative. But we don't have to join in on all that emotional exchange. And people might think we're aloof, they might think we're non-caring. Well, if they think that, that's their problem too, because we do what we need to sustain ourselves and others when we're going through a crisis.
Yeah, what's the old term about water on a duck? Like, what is it? What is that old term?
Goes right off like water on a duck's back.
Exactly.
Let it just pretend. Just think of the duck's back.
And if we let those negative experiences and those comments and those things that bother us to go in that way, then we can swim off in a beautiful way and turn into a swan, I guess. I don't know, but we can be a much more beautiful person than we would be if we absorb it and drowned in it.
Yeah.
And I think, sadly, you and I and many of us have seen people who are just drowning and continue to drown and continue to be broken. And in that broken state remain forever, and at least in this life. I think one of the great things about eternal life is that we get healed, but it would be so wonderful to have emotional and spiritual and physical healing in this life, and sometimes that's not always possible, and we don't want to make it sound flippant and simpler than it is, because it is sometimes not simple, but it is, or not easy, but it is simple, and the concept is easy.
Yes, and it's up to each individual to act or react according to their own inner prompting in every circumstance in life, and then to allow other people to do the same thing, to act or react without our being involved emotionally in the other person's problem or situation. And that might sound callous in a way, but everyone should trust me that it's the best alternative, best of any alternative, because we're allowing other people again to go through their own process without being judgmental, without trying to change them, but just let them learn from their own experience, which is the only way we ever learn.
Mm-hmm. And it comes back to personal responsibility and personal accountability, and that takes nothing away from the presence and power of God at all. And we're grateful for that, and we have always a choice in how we're going to react to circumstance and situations. And so we hope that you are able to deal with your challenges and with your broken times in a positive and supportive way. And we look forward to seeing you next time.